It all began on a warm summer evening when the auditorium lights glowed with their familiar golden haze, the kind that made every seat feel like it belonged to a dream waiting to unfold. Backstage, where nervous breaths trembled in the air and anxious footsteps echoed between curtains, 13-year-old Mia Rivera squeezed the hand of a younger brother, 8-year-old Noah, as if holding on to the last piece of courage she had left. The two of them stood beside their father, Daniel, who tried to appear calm for his kid's sake even though his own stomach was twisting into knots. They arrived at America's Got Talent, not because they believed they would win or because they dreamed of fame, but because they needed something, anything, to remind them that hope still existed after the year that nearly broke them. Their mother, Lily, once the heart of their home and the voice of every lullaby, had passed away the previous winter after a long and painful battle with heart disease, leaving behind a silence that felt too heavy for their small house to carry. Music was the only thing that still connected them to her, but they hadn't sung together since the night she left. Tonight, for the first time, they were stepping on stage with a song she used to sing while stirring the morning oatmeal, watering the front yard roses, or comforting them during storms. It wasn't just a performance. It was a promise to themselves that healing was possible. As they prepared to walk out, the stage manager gave them a gentle nod, the kind reserved for contestants whose stories sat just beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered. The audience was buzzing laughter, stretching like threads from one seat to another, energy building in waves as the judges settled behind their panel. Simon leaned back in his chair, arms folded, scanning the stage with his usual mix of curiosity and skepticism. Sophia clapped excitedly. Heidi smiled warmly, and Howie leaned forward, eager for whatever surprise the next moment would bring. When the Rivera family stepped out, the theater softened to a hush. Daniel carried a small wooden guitar that had belonged to Lily, its edges worn, its strings still humming with memories. Mia had braided yellow ribbons into her hair, the same ribbons her mom used to wear when performing at small community events. Noah clutched a tiny harmonica, even though he wasn't sure if he'd be brave enough to use it. They introduced themselves hesitantly, their voices breaking slightly, but when Howie gently asked what brought them there, something in Daniel shifted. He took a slow breath and answered with honesty instead of fear. "We lost someone very special this year. We're here to sing her song. We're here to keep her alive." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was filled with empathy, with invisible arms reaching out to hold them. When the music began, it was soft, fragile, almost unsure of itself. But as Daniel's fingers strummed the guitar's first notes, the melody swelled into something full of longing. Mia stepped forward and began to sing, her voice trembling like a bird, unsure if it could still fly. But the moment she glanced at Noah, something inside her steadied. Her voice grew stronger, clearer, warm like sunrise, hopeful like her mother's eyes. The lyrics spoke of holding on when the world falls apart, of finding strength in the pieces left behind, of believing that love never fades, even when the person does. Halfway through, when the music hit the quietest, most vulnerable point, Noah surprised everyone, including himself, when he lifted the harmonica to his lips and played a soft, trembling harmony. The audience gasped. The judges leaned forward, and the moment wrapped itself around every heart in the room. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect. But it was pure. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. Mia's voice cracked not from stage fright, but from the wave of emotion crashing into her. Her father stopped playing for a moment and knelt beside her, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. In the kind of instinct born only from love, the entire family huddled together at the center of the stage. Daniel whispered, "We're doing this for her." And with those words, they began again, stronger, united. The room felt smaller now, as if the audience had been invited into the Rivera living room. Sitting beside them on the floor, listening to a family rebuild itself, note by note, people wiped tears. A mother in the front row held her child closer. A man removed his glasses to discreetly brush away emotion. Even the judges, often shielded behind years of televised performances, couldn't hide the way their expressions softened. As the song approached its final crescendo, Mia lifted her eyes to the ceiling, imagining her mother watching from somewhere gentle and peaceful. Noah pressed one last note on the harmonica that lingered like a heartbeat, and Daniel ended the song with a whisper of the guitar's final chord. It dissolved into the air like a prayer. Then complete silence, the kind that stretches across time, heavy with meaning, deep with connection, and from somewhere within that silence came a moment no one expected. Sophia rose from her seat first, hands trembling slightly, tears sparkling on her cheeks. Without waiting for permission or hesitation, she slammed her hand down on the golden buzzer. A burst of radiant gold exploded above the stage, raining confetti like warm sunlight poured from heaven itself. The audience erupted into cheers and applause. The Rivera family froze in disbelief. Mia looked up with wide, astonished eyes as gold fell around her like blessings. Noah laughed a sound no one had heard since their mother's final days. Daniel covered his face with his hands, overwhelmed by the wave of beauty engulfing them. Sophia rushed to the stage, hugging all three tightly, telling them, "You didn't just sing a song, you gave us your hearts." And we felt every beat. Even Simon, who rarely let emotion show, cleared his throat and said, "That wasn't an audition. That was a gift." The entire room felt united in that moment, not as an audience watching a show, but as human beings sharing grief, hope, love, and healing. When the confetti settled and the Rivera family walked backstage, they weren't the same people who had entered trembling with fear. Something inside them had shifted. Not because of the golden buzzer, though its shimmering glow still clung to their clothes, but because for the first time since losing Lily, they felt like they could breathe again. A crew member handed Mia one of the golden confetti stars caught in her hair. She pressed it to her heart, whispering, "This is for you, Mom." Noah wrapped his arms around his sister, resting his head against her side. Daniel closed his eyes, lifting his face toward the ceiling, offering a silent thank you to the universe. What no one on stage or backstage could have known was that millions of people at home would feel that same emotion. Others would say that the performance saved them on a night they were drowning quietly in their own grief. And in homes across the USA, people who had never met the Rivera family would cry with them. Il Wheatem, Opie Wheatem. The beauty of that night wasn't just the golden buzzer, or the confetti, or the applause. It was how a grieving father and two brave children walked onto a stage. Brukanan walked off whole. It was how a room full of strangers witnessed something unfiltered and deeply human. It was how kindness, compassion, and generosity can transform ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. And it was how love, in its simplest form, became the bridge between pain and healing. In the end, the Rivera family didn't just melt hearts. They reminded everyone watching, whether from the judges' panel, the back row, or their own living rooms, that even in our hardest seasons, we are not alone. Music can mend what life breaks. Love can echo even after loss. And sometimes the most unexpected moments are the ones that show us who we truly are. And somewhere, somehow, the people we love are listening.